The book just dropped yesterday. So,
That's exciting, and that's a great lead in. So again, thank you for taking a minute out today. I'm looking forward to getting into the book and your world. So thank you.
yeah, my pleasure.
So having a book released on the 13th of March has
Mm.
to feel good because 5 years ago everything was grinding to a halt. There was all of this COVID pandemic calamity. So how much of living through that time period influenced this book and the way that you live your life today?
Oh, I think that's a great question. COVID impacted everybody in so many different ways. For me, being in learning and development, I had to, pardon me, take a step back from all of the learning programs that we were offering in person and deliver them virtually. I had to learn the back end of Zoom. I mean, I was co-facilitating the programs. I had to work with the facilitator of the programs. We had to work out how breakouts worked and what to do if something went wrong. And we created whole new roles from that, and whole new elements of our process to deliver the program, such as I created run sheets, like literally every single PowerPoint slide was on a run sheet with what needed to be done. There was the facilitator facilitated the program, but we also had an admin, support that person, supporting the people that were attending the programs. So I think that in relation to the book, now that I think about it, because that was what, 2019, 2020. I had just started the book in 2019.
Okay.
So it took me a long time to actually get the book out and on the table because I was so busy dealing with everything else that the pandemic required us to do
Yeah.
from a work perspective, let alone from a personal perspective as well. I mean, everybody was impacted
Yeah.
personally by that. Life has just not been the same for me, and I'm sure that relates to a lot of other people as well.
Yeah. Certainly has. So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do on a regular basis today, along with being an author. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of grade school kids, third
Okay.
graders. It's career day. And
hmm
one of the kids in the back of the room is curious and is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
Oh, I love that. So, I educate adults on how to be great managers and leaders. And we have a lot of opportunity to continue to educate managers and leaders on how to be great leaders. Not a lot of people, particularly the people in front of me, would be thinking, when I grow up, I want to be a manager, right? Most of us are kind of thinking, oh, I want to be a police officer or I want to be a fireman, the old adage.
Yeah.
Not many people say, I want to be a manager.
Right.
Not even many might want to say, I want to be a leader. They might want to say, I want to lead things or I want to lead initiatives. But the title, I think the title manager is just so outdated in terms of what the role actually entails. And I was actually having a conversation with an executive in a tech company many years ago. We were talking about the role of a manager and the role itself, what the role itself entailed. And I said to him, like the manager title is just so outdated. I mean, it dates back to the Industrial Revolution, where we used to have process lines and, whatever to get things done. It's just irrelevant now as a title. Yet so many people have that title every day.
Yeah.
So he played along with me. He said to me, "Well, what would you change the title to?" And I said, "Communicator." And I said, "No, actually, empowerer." Just imagine a company full of empowerers and senior empowerers, right? It would completely change the way that the whole company views management, leadership, and the role and the impact that they have on people every single day.
Yeah.
Obviously, that didn't go ahead, but I think it would be kind of
It
interesting,
would
wouldn't
be. Yeah.
it?
It would be because there is a lot of power to a title and
Oh, yeah.
what it means, and there's powerful words. So, what did you want to be when you were in the third grade? What was your dream life?
Oh, that's interesting. I wanted it to be a what they call it now, an airline stewardess. I
Okay.
just wanted to travel the world and have fun doing it. And I ended up doing that. I've met a lot of airline stewardesses. Is that what you even call it these days?
I
Flight
think
attendants,
flight
I
attendants.
think
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that role really excited me And I have appreciated every single flight attendant I have ever come into contact with because they've made my days, my times, my hours flying just so much better.
Yeah. So how did we get here? What were the foundational seeds that were planted into you to help leaders and to help companies? What were those things that became who you are?
Yeah, I think I'm becoming who I am, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. It's been a long journey. I'm in my mid 50s. I wanted to work immediately, so I left school early and didn't, when I say early, I mean it was Form 5, so year 11, I think it's commonly known as here.
Yeah.
And I wanted to work straight away. So I went and worked in a law firm as a junior. And I worked really hard, getting up early in the morning, getting the train into the office, working 9 to 5, an hour for lunch, those sorts of things. And then I got to a point in my life where I thought, I think I can do more. So I went back and got my year 12 part-time while I was working full-time. And then from getting my year 12, or VCE, as we call it in Australia, where I'm from, I started a Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology. I didn't have an easy childhood, to be honest, Joe. My mother raised me, single mom, divorced dad, different families. I think I had a weird upbringing in that I didn't have a relationship with my father and his family when I was growing up. So it was very much mum and me. I saw him every now and again, but and I think from that it led me into thinking, well, I think there's a relationship between parenthood or being a parent and being a leader or a manager. And I do talk a little bit about that in my book, but I think it's a very sensitive topic for a lot of people as well. So I don't want to dive into that too much, but I do believe that because of the various experiences that I had as a child, they led me to think, well, parents have a significant impact on their child's life. So do managers.
Yeah.
The old adage that that people leave managers, not companies, I think is very true. I don't think it's true every time, but I think it's very true a lot of the time. And I wanted to do whatever I could to help people make a conscious decision to become managers rather than what I was seeing every day of, there's a great engineer. Oh, let's give him a team, or her a team of people. She'll be a great engineering manager. And it's kind of the role between being an engineer and being an engineering manager is like chalk and cheese. It's like so different.
Yeah.
And I feel like the skills and responsibilities that managers take on are just not talked about enough
Yeah.
before people jump into the role. So I think that's probably the been the motivation for me, my childhood, and then getting my behavioral science degree and diving into psychology, teaching managers and leaders how to be better managers and leaders, just so they have a better impact on the people and they have that work for them and they have an opportunity to have a great impact and they also have an opportunity to have a negative one. And I want to stop the negative as much as I possibly can. So that's why I wrote the book.
So releasing a book is a big deal. It's a big
Yeah.
monument, the monumental moment. So game on. Talk to me a little bit about why you decided to write this and what it means, and kind of give us an abstract.
Yeah, I wanted to have fun with the concept, so hence the game on. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of the people that are potential readers of my book are, in their late 20s, early 30s at this particular point in time. Apparently, most people fall into management roles around about the age of 30. Unfortunately, they don't get trained in the role until they're in their early 40s. So there's a big gap
Yeah.
there of a missing education. So the game on element of it. So the title is Game On, is management your best career play? And I liken your career to a game because I think that there's a lot of similarities. And I go into that actually, interestingly, not until the final chapter of the book. But albeit your career is a serious game. It's something that we need to take really seriously. And when I think of games, I think of walking into, you might relate to this too, Joe, a buzzing video game arcade, right? And
Yeah.
it's kind of like, where do I want to go? What's going to be most interesting? What's going to be most exciting for me? What am I going to be great at? What do I hate? What do I suck at? All of those kinds of elements to it. So I wanted it to be fun and also instructional to the point of what is the role of a manager, not how to be a manager, because that would be 20 books. Although I do dive into a couple of elements there. But is management your best career play? Let's look at what the role actually entails before you jump in. Let's not do that typical trust fall exercise that so many people do, and find themselves in a situation of, wow, I didn't realize I needed to have difficult conversations. I didn't need to know that I needed to fire people. I didn't want anything to do with that. I didn't want to deal with the fact that my company is telling me that I have to lower my budget by 15%. So now I've got to readjust my projects and work my team and keep my team motivated, engaged, inspired. I didn't know any of that was part of it. I don't know if I want this anymore,
Yeah,
So I want to prohibit that from happening by giving the what of management is in a fun, hopefully engaging
yeah,
way. It's also a really personal book. There's a lot of me in the book.
yeah,
So I share some personal experiences. I also created a character who is me in another life. Her name is Zoe, and Zoe is an engineer who is thinking about diving into a management role.
yeah,
And so we get into Zoe's head throughout the book, to learn a little bit about, as she's reading it, what's going on with her, what she's liking about what she's reading, what she's worried about. And we ultimately find out what her decision is as to become a manager or not. So I'll leave the audience hanging on that,
sure,
Joe, because they'll
sure.
have to read the book to find out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, who's been kind of an inspirational force for you? A hero of sorts in your life?
Oh, wow, there's so many. I think more recently, Simon Sinek, and there's a couple of quotes of Simon's in there. Nelson Mandela is
Yeah,
someone who I can relate to. I've actually been to South Africa a couple of times, and I think it's one of the most beautiful countries in the world. And I've been out to where he was imprisoned for such a long time as well. And it's just inspiring that that was his life.
yeah,
And I think if I take a holistic view, I've had another thing that has happened to me just in writing this book, and not necessarily directly related to COVID, but over the past 5 years, I've lost five very close friends, family members. They've just passed away. And it gave me a whole new sense of my own personal mortality.
yeah,
And I write about one of those people. I dedicate the book to all of them, and I write significantly about one of them in chapter 9, because I titled that chapter Impact is Everything, because he taught me that. He's a gentleman by the name of Sander Dales. I worked with him at Juniper Networks in Hong Kong when I was living there for 3.5 years, and he passed away prematurely, like 5 months before his 50th birthday, only December of 2023. So that app, him as a leader, someone who brought out the best in other people. I met him not long after moving to Hong Kong from Melbourne, Australia. I didn't know anyone. New role, new job, new country, new culture. And I did some work for his group, and he realized I was new as well because he'd only recently moved to Hong Kong in the last 5 or 6 months. And he could not do more for me than he introduced me around, held me up in terms of the work that I had been doing with him and his group. So, anyone that I guess for me has gone through some hardship and come out the other side
yeah,
and is still willing to see life in the light that is available
yeah.
to people and have a significant impact on others. I remember standing at Sander's funeral in New Zealand in January of 2024. And I swear I heard him whisper, Joe, in my ear,
Wow.
what are we in life if not the impact we have on others? And so I think that as much as I'd done a lot of work on the book took a different turn
Yeah,
to kind of to really get people thinking two things. If you want to be a manager, first of all, what's the impact you want to have on other people? And secondly, why do you want to be a manager? Because if you can't answer both of those questions, I'm not saying management is not for you. I'm just saying maybe there's other options out there that you can investigate and be curious about before diving in. And at the very least, be ready for the hard stuff. They call it soft skills. It's so far from soft, Joe. It's not funny,
Yeah.
right? It's tough stuff that managers deal with every day, and they do it behind a curtain.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know the challenging situations that managers are dealing with every day, and they shouldn't, frankly, because managers have just got to suck it up and deal with it,
Yeah. Yeah.
whilst also, potentially being the topic of a dinner time conversation, because who doesn't go home and talk about their managers, right, to
Yeah.
their significant others every night?
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. That's
So when you look at like the role of like a manager and like a CEO role for a company on the
mm,
planet right now,
mhm.
who's a model individual that you might want to meet and talk to that might help you on your journey?
Oh, Oprah Winfrey in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I think that, again, going back to the going through adversity and shining at the other end, and helping people, helping other people shine.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had the opportunity to meet and engage with her, I'm a huge Mel Robbins fan as
Yeah.
well. I think her most recent book too, and of course the title's going to escape me right now, so I'll have to fill in that gap.
Yeah.
Um, is phenomenal. So let me look that up just real
Sure.
quick.
Yeah, you bet. And while you do that, I'm going to have you think about this.
Mm,
You have to delve into some heavy stuff to help your clients out,
yeah,
but you also have to evolve and develop as a human being. You have your own soul.
yeah.
What gets you up every day and motivates you to not only to do this work, but to take care of yourself?
Oh man. Um, the opportunity to make a difference in the world. I've been, and that's why it's one of the other reasons I wrote the book. By the way, that author Mel Robbins, that her book was the Let Them theory.
Okay.
Just had.
Yeah.
So, I think she's doing the same thing. I think that's one of the reasons I was frustrated in so many of my corporate roles is because I was waking up every morning wondering if I really could make a difference because of everything else I was dealing with. And that's why I started the leadership recipe, because I wanted to be my own manager. I wanted to be my own boss, because I think a lot of people get in the way of others doing that.
Yeah.
And if there's any message I've got out there to corporate people listening to this, I think it would be two things. One selfishly, and the other maybe less so, is for them to think about what am I doing that might be getting in the way of other people being successful?
Yeah.
How can I kind of not step away, but just step aside and raise them up to be the beautiful human beings that no doubt they wake up every morning being.
Yeah.
The other reason I wrote the book too is, I've been in talent management, performance management for, well over 10 years now. Um, and I was hoping that this book might be picked up by different corporations to incorporate into their performance management process
Yeah.
rather than just, you know, picking a person that's great at what they do and throwing them into a management role. At least give them the book and say, hey, this is what it's all about. Is this still something that really interests you? And then how can I support you now before you're a manager to be the best possible manager you can be? And then obviously support them through the management transition and then ongoing, because being a manager is being a lifelong learner, right?
Yeah.
Leaders are readers. I don't know who said that, but they were really smart.
Yeah. Yep. They were on it for sure.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this.
Mm.
If you were to walk into a room of clients and colleagues, everybody that you've worked with over your career in a professional sense, and you
Yeah.
get to step through that room full of people and go to a podium and tell them one fun thing about you that would humanize you to them, a fun story, what would you tell them?
Fun story. Interesting. Let me think about that for a second, Joe.
Okay.
Um, well, I've done some crazy things in the classroom when I've been training adults just to kind of get their attention.
Yeah.
Um, I used to be a singer in a previous life,
Yeah.
a rock and roll singer.
Nice.
And I was asked to be a keynote speaker at an event at Amazon Devices when I worked there. And I was excited about it. It was about career growth and career development. But I thought, how can I do something different? How can I activate this audience? And this literally was walking into a room of very senior people. I
Yeah.
mean, Bezos's right-hand person for a long time. And so I had the microphone and I started to walk from the back of the room to the front of the room. I'm going to clear my throat just for a second.
Yeah.
And I just started to sing, when the red, red robin comes bop, bop, bopping along. Sorry, my voice broke
Oh,
there.
you're
Can I do
good.
that? Can I do that again?
Yeah. So go ahead.
And so anyway, so when the red, red robin comes bop, bop, bopping along, along. So I did that walking up from, and of course, I had everybody's attention
Yeah.
immediately. And the reason I wanted to do that was, apart from get their attention, was say that you, in your career, you've got to love what you do and do what you love,
Yeah.
or do what you love and love what you do, however way you want to look at it. And I love singing. It's been a long time since I sung live. But I used to sing in the classroom sometimes. So, if there was an opportunity, like if a flow of lyrics came to mind while I was speaking to the group, I would just break into song.
Yeah.
And it was a way for me to engage them and have fun with them and create a memorable experience for them. So
That's
that's what.
wonderful. That's a great. So let me ask you this. If you had a dream tonight, ran into the 18-year-old version of you, and you could give that young version
Mm-mm.
of you a piece of advice based on this life you've led, the wisdom you've gained, what advice would
Yeah,
you impart on that young version?
just do it.
Yeah.
But believe in yourself because no matter what no matter what your upbringing has been, that doesn't define you. You define you.
Yeah.
No one else does. And don't let that get in the way of the dream life that you want to have. Create it yourself. Visualize it. See yourself in it. And don't let anything or anyone get in your way
Yeah.
because whatever you put your mind to, you can do.
So what are you the proudest of? After everything that you've done, seen, and accomplished and evolved into, what are you the proudest of?
At the moment, I'm the proudest of my book
Yeah.
because I've wanted to write a book since I was 7 years old.
Yeah. Yes.
And I know I went to a friend's book launch and I was looking up at all of these adults with cups of tea in their hands with, we call them biscuits or cookies, as you call them here. And I saw this pile of books. And every time I walked into a bookstore my whole life, I get chills. I'm
Yeah.
getting chills right now.
Yeah.
So I am most proud of that. I'm also very proud of my family and the life that I have created for myself now in the Pacific Northwest. And I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about the opportunity to impact people and give back and maybe help a few people along the way.
Speaking of books, what was your favorite book? What is your favorite book?
Oh, I think right now it is the Let Them Theory through Mel Robbins. I got to be
Okay.
honest,
Okay.
because I think there's an element. I also loved, speaking of Nelson Mandela, The Power of One. I
Yeah.
think that made a huge difference. Not necessarily a direct leadership book, but The Power of One really changed the way that I think about myself and the impact or the influence that little old me,
Yeah.
might be able to have.
So everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, everyone that gets your book, but you run the show. What's your
Hmm.
perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Wow, that's a really interesting self-reflective question there,
Yeah.
Joe.
Yes.
Um, I think that I am thoughtful, um, kind, interesting, curious individual um, who always wants to bring out the best in myself and others.
So, what do you like the best about living in America, and what do you miss the most about Australia?
Australia definitely this is this is terrible. My husband and I were talking about this last night on our walk. Fish and chips in Australia.
Okay.
There's a unique form of fish and chips in Australia, which is flake and potato cakes and hot chips. And um, I miss maybe walking into a fish and chip shop and getting a piece of fried flake.
Yeah.
Um, what do I love the most about America? America's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, just look around,
Yeah.
you know. That's why I love the outdoors, hiking. I live, as I said, in the Pacific Northwest, and I'm looking out over the San Juan Islands and the beautiful Mount Baker right now. America is one of the most picturesque countries. And even when I lived in Australia and Hong Kong and I would visit here, um, I was absolutely awestruck by, Yosemite.
Yeah.
And I haven't been to half the state or national parks that are available here. But yes, there's something very unique and something that America should be really, really proud of and hold on to because it's absolutely beautiful.
You're totally right. And of course, I'm in Kansas City and there's no bodies of water, big bodies of water or mountains or anything. So
Mm,
once I got out and saw the world and other places, and I've been up to Seattle, I was in
mm,
Issaquah back in the 90s when the grunge scene was going on and I was getting bootleg albums and thought I was the bee's knees. Um, but it's beautiful. It's different. I actually flew through Seattle 2 years ago from San Diego, and I miss that immediate rush of that fresh kind of pine feeling and
mm.
air. It's a different thing. So
Yeah, one of the reasons we moved up here was I love the ocean and my husband loves forests and
okay,
where we are is definitely forest meets ocean. But Australia is really pretty too. A lot of people say to me, "Why would you want to leave Australia? It's fantastic."
yeah. I
Um,
I had a professor in college. His name was Pierre Renair, and it was upper level media, and he was really a hard edge guy. One of those guys where if you walked in the room a few minutes after class started, he would be like, your pay is docked," or if you didn't turn in an assignment, he would
mm,
be like, "You're fired." Like he treated you like you were in a media company. But I remember I went to his office and he was a totally different personality and he had a poster on the wall of Australia. And I've
mm,
always wanted to go there. I just love the just the whole vibe. And
mm,
he just opened up. I think it was Sydney. It was a picture, and he was just talking about how magical it was there. But it was interesting. I will always view him in Australia as a synonymous moment because he finally lost the veneer and wasn't hard. He was soft and he had a
mm,
soul that palpitated and talked about something he genuinely loved, which was travel. And I think Sydney was his favorite city. So it was
mm.
cool. I always remember it because of that.
Yeah, I'm from Melbourne. There's this huge, there's a rivalry, I'll say it in inverted commas, between Sydney and Melbourne. But I love Melbourne obviously because I come from there. They're very, very different cultures, I find, but Sydney's really pretty
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to get a copy of your book, they want to reach out, they want to learn more, they're interested, where do they go?
Sure. My email address is joanne@theleadershiprecipe.com. And then my website is leadershiprecipe.com as well. And of course, the book's available on Amazon, and the title is Game On: Is Management Your Best Career Play?
Excellent, Joanne. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for your story. Thank you for your time and keep doing the great work. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Joe. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.